This is not quite a how-to on replacing the front door speakers in a Mazda 6, so the stock speakers under there. The reason why I say not quite a how-to is because I don't have the technology to hold my camera, basically a tripod, while I do the job. So I'll give you a couple of tips in doing it. So what I'll be doing is having to take off the door card or the door panel, obviously, to get to the speaker, and I'll be replacing them with some Rockford Fosgate speakers. That's what I bought. Those are 6x8s. They're supposed to be a straight in, straight out swap, so no adapters or anything needed for those. So Rockford Fosgate also do quite a good component set. And it comes with the adapter plates. There's a couple of other manufacturers as well that do it, some credible ones. Here are the basic tools that you're going to need: a Phillips screwdriver, a flat screwdriver, some door panel popper removers, and then an adapter. If you don't want to cut into the speaker wire, you'll need an adapter to go from the stock loom into your new speaker. So this is actually not the correct plug, I know that for sure. So the one that I end up using is the one that actually says for a Ford. So if you do look online and it says that is for a Mazda 6, those are not correct. So that would plug into the idea is that plugs into the loom, and then the other end plugs into the speakers that you are replacing. So on the passenger side, you need to remove, there's this cover here. I use one of those tools that I got. So these popper removal tools, you can get them fairly cheap. I got them for about a tenner. There's 5 of them in the set from Amazon. You can use that to pry this off from up here. So you pry that off. There's 2 screws under here, one up here, one down here. There's a further screw under here, so you just need to pop up the cover there, pull out that section of the door handle. You have to sort of edge out that way. Then you can use your hands to pull fairly firmly around the sides of the door and the bottom to pull off the poppers. Just so you know, there's also an additional popper probably somewhere around here. To take the actual door panel off, or the door card off, you kind of have to angle it out a little bit like that and slide it out that way. The other advantage as well is to pop off this little unit here. You'll find it a lot easier to put the door panel back on when this is off. There are sort of 2 clips there. It feels quite firm, and when you pull it, it'll just suddenly pop out. And yeah, that's basically it. On the driver's side, it is slightly different in that there are only 2 screws to get the card off. There's the one behind the door handle, and then just under the door pull here, there's a little mat. You need to lift that up. There's a screw underneath. When you pull the panel off, it won't come straight off the door. There are 2 plugs that are connected. So there's your window winder switch, and there is also the light. So the window winder switch is quite difficult to get behind. There is obviously a clip that you need to pull on to pull it out. That can be a little bit fiddly. So just to run that through again, you don't need many tools. The Phillips screwdriver is essentially what you'll use for the 3 screws here. It is also what you'll use for the 4 screws that are holding the speaker on. The flat screwdriver you can use obviously to pop up that little doofy there to get to the screw, and you'll also need it, I used it when you get the speaker out. There's a shield, a rain shield or something on the speaker, and it's glued to the stock speaker. So basically just wedge your way around with that. You could use a knife, nothing too sharp so as not to damage it, and try not to cut yourself, because I did several times when I did the job. As far as the head unit goes, I'm not replacing that. Part of the reason being that in this model of Mazda 6 you need to replace the whole fascia panel there in order to replace the head unit, and the replacement fascia panel for that costs probably more than a replacement head unit. So but doesn't make economic sense really at the moment. The speakers that I I'm putting in at the moment. I'm just connecting them straight to the stock unit. At some time in the future I'll probably look to amplify them, so putting in an amp in the boot, and I'll do a separate video for that. I've also do a separate video on the before and after sound test. Obviously I think on video the sound doesn't come out brilliantly, but maybe you'll hear a difference. I don't know, but it'll be there for you to look at. So if you do look at amping your system, you will need to get wires through the Molex here, and I have read some how-tos on that, and I can tell you it's not for the faint-hearted. So at the moment, because the car is new to me, I'm not doing that now, but at some point I will get new wires coming through from the amp to power the speakers, and that should hopefully do a better job. So as I say, not quite a how-to, but hopefully something that'll give you a few tips. I'll also show you what it looks like under there when the door panel is off, with the stock speaker system in there, and also with the replacement speaker in. So just to remind you again, when you've got 3 screws on the passenger side, and then just with your hand you can pull quite firmly, or if you buy one of these kits that have got 5 tools in, there is a tool that you can use to pry the door panel off. So there are sort of poppers all the way around, and this little tool is quite useful because quite a few of the poppers remain in, so you can use that to pull those poppers out without damaging them. That's pretty much it, so I'll get on with removing the door card. Here it is with the door card off. There's the stock speaker. You got to get this plug off the door card, which is basically it's plugged in that way. You have to reach around the back of it. There's a little bit that you need to depress to get out. It was a little bit fiddly. There wasn't a lot of space to get in there, at least with my big gorilla hands. And then the tools that I told you about earlier, that comes in useful, for instance, when you pull off the door card and you've got some of the door clips that are still in, so that'll help pull it in and pull them off. Okay, so I'm going to replace that speaker now. To give you an idea, that is the speaker out, so that's the stock speaker. I did show you that connector that I'd bought, so basically that's the one coming out of the car, and I bought one to plug straight in. Hadn't been supplied the right one, so I'm not going to be able to do that. Obviously if you wanted, you could just cut into the wires. I'm not wanting to do that. I want to keep it as stock as possible. The other thing as well, when you pull the speaker out, there's this protective cover or water shield or whatever it is as well, so somehow I have to come up with a rig to be able to put that on the new speaker going in. Okay, something's actually going right with this install at the moment. Taken off that protective cover off the stock speaker, and it pretty much is fitting straight onto this Rockford Fosgate speaker, which is going to go in the door. Obviously not popping that in yet because I still have to get those connectors to plug into the stock wire there. So I have to go online and order that tonight. Yeah, you just got to ease it when you take this off. You've got to ease it off the other one. Try not to cut yourself in the process like I have. I might trim it a little bit because it's quite close to the magnet there, so I might trim that edge a little bit. I'll have to see. I don't think it's much of an issue. There is the new speaker in the door after I eventually got the right connector plug. You can see the foam. I haven't glued it on yet. The original had a foam surround, so I'm just making my own shift one, just waiting for the glue to get a bit tacky, and then I'll glue that on. It's just slipped out of place. So the new speaker is in and the door panel is back on. Just to give you some tips and some reminders, when you put in the door panel, remember to pull that off so that you can slide this in. Make sure that you do get the door panel round. There's the metal lip on the actual door. You need to get part of the panel on the other side of that so it fits nice and tight. You will have pulled off the poppers. It's good to position those onto the door panel before you actually put the door panel back on. There are little places that they just slide in easily. You'll see them easily when you pull off the door panel. Also remember to plug the light back in and to plug the light switch back in as well before you start to press down the poppers. So you're going to edge the door panel in that way, really making sure that it's around the other side of the lip on the door there, and obviously you stick that back in afterwards. Is kind of the last thing to do. When you slide that back in, obviously you pull the door handle a little bit to put it back in. You've got your 3 screws to put back in, and pop that back on, and then once you've got everything in, just pushing down quite firmly around the edges of the door to make sure all the panels, all the poppers are in properly. Because you've disconnected the door, you'll need to reset the winder, which you can do, just turn on the ignition, wind the window down manually, hold it down all the way, and then hold it up all the way up to the top. When it gets to the top, hold it for about 2 or 3 seconds, and that'll reset and reprogram. And that's it. And you can check out the other video for the before and after sound if you can hear anything different, really. And that's it. I obviously got to do the driver's side door as well, and not video that. The process is pretty much the same, just there's on the driver's door there is an extra clip behind, because of course it's got you've got the switches for your mirrors, and of course to control the windows itself as well. So there's 2 plugs on the other side, and then there's only 2 screws, so that's the difference on the driver's side.